if you've heard of Force outboard motors, you probably know that they are no longer being manufactured and that their resale value is lower than other competing brands. You may also have heard that they are unreliable, use outdated technology, or have lower quality finishes. A lot of people ask, are Force outboard motors any good? Let's take a closer look at these outboards. In this video, we'll explore their history, design, technology and performance, reliability, cost and resale value, availability of spare parts, and who should consider a Force outboard motor. Before we continue, if you have owned or currently own a Force outboard, please leave a comment sharing your experience. It could be very helpful to others who are considering purchasing a Force outboard. History and background. The story begins in the 1960s when Chrysler Marine first produced outboard engines. They were simple, competitively priced, and found a niche among budget-conscious boaters. Later, in the 1980s, US Marine, best known for the Bayliner brand, acquired Chrysler's outboard division and rebranded these motors as Force. The focus remained on affordability, positioning Force as an entry-level option. Eventually, Brunswick Corporation, which owns Mercury Marine, took over. Force outboards were built alongside Mercury engines and sometimes even shared components, particularly the lower unit during this era. However, overlapping product lines and evolving technology meant the Force brand was phased out around 1999. Design, technology, and performance. Force motors typically featured older technology, even when new, particularly regarding the ignition and electrical components. Many models relied on carbureted systems and relatively basic ignition setups. They also tend to be louder and consume more fuel than many of their contemporary competitors. That said, the technology was simple and relatively easy to maintain. With the integration of Mercury components in the more recent models, some Force motors benefited from better availability of spare parts. However, these improvements didn't fundamentally change the reputation of Force as using old-fashioned technology. Regarding on-the-water performance, Force motors can feel less powerful compared to contemporary engines with similar horsepower. Their acceleration and top speed might fall short, and fuel consumption is usually higher. Reliability. Opinions on the reliability of Force outboard motors vary significantly. Many owners point out that, if properly maintained, Force motors can be very reliable. There are plenty of anecdotes about long-lasting engines that never quit, as long as they received regular maintenance. Using the correct oil-fuel mix, replacing impellers, and maintaining spark plugs, etc. On the other hand, some owners report major reliability issues, saying these motors can leave you stranded if not cared for diligently. It's worth noting that the build and finish quality were lower than many of their contemporaries to reduce costs and offer a more economical price point. Part of Force's poor reputation stems from the fact that they were often installed on budget boats, which tended to end up with less experienced owners who only used their boats a few times a year with little or no maintenance. This made them more susceptible to corrosion, poor quality fuel, and lack of regular service, leading to frequent problems. It should also be mentioned that their simpler technology often makes them easier to repair. Cost and resale value. A clear advantage of choosing a Force motor is the cost. When searching for a used outboard, you'll likely find that Force models are significantly cheaper than Mercury, Yamaha, or Johnson Evinrude engines of the same power and age. Since Force is perceived as a low-cost brand, resale can be challenging. If you ever decide to sell your boat, those with a Force motor often fetch lower prices and can take longer to sell. Availability of spare parts. Availability can vary. You can often find replacement parts online at marine salvage yards or through specialized suppliers. Models that share components with Mercury, especially the more recent Force units, make it easier to find essential parts. However, if you're dealing with a Chrysler-era engine, you may have to spend more time tracking down rarer parts. Who should consider a Force motor? So how do you know if a Force outboard might be right for you? Here are a few guidelines. 1. Your budget is very tight. A Force might be appealing if your main goal is simply to get on the water at the lowest possible cost. 2. You're comfortable with DIY maintenance. These engines are quite straightforward to repair if you enjoy tinkering, and they don't rely heavily on complex electronics. 3. Your usage is occasional or low demand. If you mainly go boating on weekends and don't require high performance, Force may suit your needs. On the other hand, if you need cutting-edge efficiency, modern design, a strong parts network, or a high resale value, you might be better off with a newer outboard from Mercury, Yamaha, Suzuki, Tohatsu, Honda, etc. Conclusion. So, are Force outboards any good? In my opinion, they have a worse reputation than they deserve. A well-maintained unit in the hands of an owner who takes care of their outboard can last for years, providing reliable service at a fraction of the cost of other brands. On the flip side, it can be a nightmare if the outboard has a poor maintenance history and hasn't been looked after. Before committing to any used outboard, whether it's a Force or another brand, always inspect its condition, review its maintenance records, and be honest about your mechanical abilities and how much you can spend on repairs. With realistic expectations and consistent care, a well-kept Force motor can be a solid and economical solution. Thank you for joining us. We'd love to hear about your experiences with Force outboards. Sharing your thoughts in the comments can help other boaters. Fair winds and following seas.